Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Dr. A.J. Seth. And when we left you, he had just returned from hearing remarkable new information about things that can be done for amputees. Tell us about the surgery, Dr. Seth.
Yeah, so the surgery is meant to realign nerves that you actually cut in the amputation and transfer them to muscles so that when the brain sends the signal to open their hand and close their hand, that we would pick them up on a prosthesis and it would do exactly what the brain told her. So I found out that 150 people in the world had undergone the surgery, and I was like, oh, this isn't too exciting now.
No.
And the people in Chicago said, hey, you want to do something cool? I said, yeah. They said, get her to feel her prosthetic hand.
Oh, my.
And I thought that was the craziest thing.
Now say that again. She can feel her prosthetic hand.
Yeah, she can feel a piece of, it's metal. She can feel metal now. What the surgery I ended up doing was the first surgery in the United States, and it's only been done 5 times in the world. 2 of them have been semi-successful, and then Melissa now is the most advanced amputee in the world.
Oh, my goodness, so incredible. Taking place right here in Northeast Ohio in Our Community, Dr. A.J. Seth. The idea that comes to me is I know other people who've lost a limb of some kind talk about phantom pain, which is a very real thing. This sounds to me like you're taking phantom pain but using it for good so that what you're feeling there is productive, not just painful.
Right. What I ended up doing was taking the nerves and in an easy way is, if you think of licorice, I peeled one of the small parts of the licorice. I put it on her skin and hoping that would make her feel on her skin, trick her brain into thinking she would regrow her fingers. So the surgery lasted 16 hours, and she had very horrible phantom pain before surgery. And then when she woke up from surgery, it was all gone.
Really?
Yeah, and that wasn't supposed to happen. I kept counseling her that, for 4 to 6 weeks, this was going to get worse. And, I had told her I'd never done the surgery before.
No one had.
No one had. And she's like, okay, you can do it. And a lot of people were hesitant to let me do it, thinking she should go to one of the bigger hospitals, Mayo Clinic or Chicago. And I said, I can do this. I said, I know I can do this. So at 4 weeks, all the muscles we had transferred were working. And then at 6 weeks is when she felt. And what I mean by that is when I touched her skin, on the inside of her arm, she said, you're touching my thumb.
Oh, my goodness.
So where we are now is we, fast forward, we're at 7 months. We just returned from Johns Hopkins and Walter Reed. We went to see the Wounded Warriors, and it's pretty eye-opening.
Yes.
In the fact that these Wounded Warriors have lost 2 and 3 limbs. And, they did it so that we can sleep at night. They did it so that when you walk to your car tonight, nobody's going to fire, a gun at you, or there's no bombs that you have to watch. When we were there, what they did was they had her connected to a prosthetic arm. The way it was connected is that on her stump, they put a Bluetooth device. That Bluetooth device would connect wirelessly to a prosthetic arm. The prosthetic arm is over $500,000. Mm-hmm. It is the only arm in the world that can move or feel. And interestingly, they've only worked on the movement because nobody has ever felt.
Right.
So,
where was this created? And was this created specifically for Melissa?
No, actually, it was created by the government, and there's one. The Department of Defense is big on trying to get someone to feel their hand.
And they're working on this, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt,
That's okay.
But they're working on this for Wounded Warriors so that this can be wonderful.
Right. And Obama in 2015 said he wanted someone to move and feel a prosthetic hand and arm. And so they've devoted $40 million into trying to get someone to feel. And then Melissa and I come by and we beat everybody and we got this to work.
So tell me if this is possible. It wouldn't matter. Can that arm be like across the room? And
it was. If there's a video on Facebook I just posted. It's been viewed 18,000 times in about 2 days. The arm is connected to a machine. It's Bluetooth. So what we did was She can move every single joint in the hand. I would have her bend and extend the elbow. The most interesting part was I would say, Melissa, bend your finger, middle finger, and the middle finger would bend. And we would say, Melissa, what do you think? And she's like, I thought bend my middle finger. So whatever I tell her to do, that's all she thinks, and the prosthetic arm does it.
I'm blown away by this, as I'm sure everybody is. First of all, let's get into your head a little bit. How does a person go into a surgery that no one in the United States has done before and feel that confidence that, I know I can do this? Where did that come from?
You know, I tell everybody this, that, I took a risk, but, I felt that I definitely can do it. There was no doubt in my mind other than the 15 minutes when I stayed at home at 7 o'clock and I didn't want to come to the hospital and do it. Until my wife said, hey, you have to do this.
It's understandable.
I think that a lot of it, when I summarize this case, and people get, my office staff and friends, everybody gets mad when I say this, but it's true. 50% is God that made this work. 49% is Melissa, and I'm 1%. All I did was, transfer nerves. And interestingly, the part that's never been done in the country, I learned how to do in 10 minutes on the phone. There's nothing written. So I never wrote it down for some reason. I was at church when I found this out, how to do it in 10 minutes. There's papers all over the church and pens. I like a recipe. I didn't write it down, and I don't know why. I mean, I nailed that surgery. There was not one thing that didn't go exactly in my mind how it would went.
Is it written down somewhere now? Did you give instructions you need to teach? Are you teaching others how to do this?
We're in the process now. I'm helping them design a prosthetic arm for her size for women in the military, because that's made right now. That arm is made for military men, 200 pounds. So that's where we're at, and I think we haven't had anybody try to replicate it until I can show everybody she can feel. I'll tell you real quick before we end, the most impressive thing that happened was I had her dad move her fingers, her thumb, her index finger, and her ring finger. With her back turned to him, she said, when he pressed the thumb, she's like, you're touching my thumb, index finger and ring finger. So she now has the ability to move every joint in the hand. And I gave her a Dunkin' Donuts coffee cup empty. She, with her back turned to it, closed her hand and didn't crush it. The minute she felt the styrofoam, she stopped. Her arm will be 100% no different than yours.
Oh, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, you get lucky, I guess. And I say, but
I don't know if that's luck.
I think that, I tell everybody, when you do a surgery for the first time, in the world, to get it to work, and we were at Walter Reed, and they looked at her and they said, do you understand nobody has ever felt before? You understand you're the most advanced person in the world. And her attitude is like, oh, it's amazing, it's great. She isn't someone who's, jumping for joy and doing this. She really feels that she was meant to do this. We were meant to meet, and there's a higher power in God that made this happen. I will tell you, there is no way our results, I think, could be that good that it's progressed so far without help. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so,
and yet it does, that the one who designed us first would be able to give you the knowledge and skill to be able to do this and make her well again.
Right. I think that's why I didn't write anything. I never wrote anything down. I just went in there and said, okay, if God wants this to work, it'll work. And I walked out of that OR, and I remember telling the family, they had to wait there 16 hours. And I walked down, and I'm like, I hit a home run. I said, I nailed this thing. I said, I guarantee you this thing is going to work.
Describe for me the emotions of them to hear this. I mean, she'd been through something very traumatic, and now here she is, first person in the United States undergoing this kind of surgery from right here in our area.
Right.
And describe the emotions in that room to find out you nailed it.
I've gotten to know her family very well. Her husband is very supportive. He's been great. Him and Melissa have never wavered on their confidence in what I can do. They never once even said, hey, we're going to go somewhere else. Her sister Michelle has been a great support. I always make fun of her because she cries all the time and all the time. I make fun of her that she's all, and her brother-in-law Dave is the one who keeps it lighthearted. And her father and some other, they're a big support group. It's hard for anybody to wrap their head around it. When they see it, it's not like people are jumping up and down for joy because they can't. It's almost
overwhelming.
Yeah, it's hard to understand that when you look at her and her back is turned and she can hold a styrofoam cup and not crush it. What do you say? There's not even words when you just realize that you did something that she's doing something that no one has ever done in the world. It's not me, it's her. She is the one who is able to use her brain with no effort and make it work.
What's next for Melissa? What's next for you? And is this going to be a movie?
People have asked about that. They want this to be a movie.
Absolutely.
They're going to have a book, but they all think it's going to be in a movie. For Melissa, she is she's the real hero in this, in the fact that she really wants to push the research forward. I can call her and say, hey, we're going to D.C., and boom, she's right on board for the research. For her, I am. They're working as we speak to get all the funding from the Department of Defense to give it to us so we can build her arm. And then we're going to start a philanthropy campaign so we can raise money so she can get that arm. Mm-hmm. And not only her, but we want to go to the Wounded Warriors and tell them no one ever can say that you can't feel a prosthetic hand or a piece of metal. She's proved it. Not me. She proved that it can be done.
This is life-changing for so many people.
Right.
I would think it would be so difficult for her right now, knowing that this is so close and yet so far. How is she? Yeah. How is she holding up waiting for this to happen?
We had this conversation last Friday with Johns Hopkins. I did, and that's everybody's worry when they're doing research is that it's disappointment when you can't take that arm home.
Right.
And she knows. We talked about this before, and she's like, I know I can't take it home. But I know I can push this research further than anyone has ever done. So she's getting a regular prosthetic arm that she can move, with her brain, just not feel. But the thing that they're so amazed at is that she's the only one in the world who can move every single joint in the arm. No one has ever done that. So it took the perfect patient, which Melissa was, to make this work. I don't think it's the perfect surgeon. I think God worked through me, and then he worked through Melissa and got this to work. Yeah.
Dr. A.J. Seth, first of all, some people may need a doctor. Where are you located, and are you accepting new patients?
I am. I'm at Spectrum Orthopedics over on Frank Road. Yeah. I do hand, elbow, and shoulder surgery, and then I operate. We have a new surgery center, OS3, and that's where I operate at. So yeah, I'm always taking new patients. Unfortunately, there's always a little bit of about 3-4 week wait, but it's my passion, not only to do the surgical side, but to be a humanistic side. When something doesn't go right, it makes you very upset, but you can't control certain things. I tell people I'm not God. I do the best I can, and most people understand that. None of us are God. And it makes it, you have to have that human component to medicine.
Well, it's an amazing story. We certainly thank you for being here to tell it to us today. We will be watching for the book. We'll be watching the news to see what's next for you and for Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us in our community.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope the community is proud about what Melissa's been able to do. I mean, when you think about it, we went to that conference in Chicago. Every single person that that presented there was from Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, Walter Reed, and then there's us from Canton, Ohio. So people don't understand how a private practice guy and Melissa got this to beat everybody in the country, and that's when you start to realize that it's not me, it's her and God working together to make this work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.